We come to the second statement, Outcomes of Qualifications Reform Review, and I call the Minister, Janet Daby.
With permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, I will now make a statement on the outcomes of the review of qualifications reform at Level 3. The priority for this government is to build a skills system which will drive forward opportunity and deliver the growth our economy needs. The post-16 skills system in England that we inherited from the previous government fails both these tests. In particular, the qualifications landscape is too confusing and fails to provide the clear routes to success needed by learners and employers. We heard strong arguments that the last government's plan to remove Level 3 qualifications and to limit the flexibility for schools and colleges meant they risked leaving students with too little choice and too few opportunities. This year, we paused the defunding of qualifications and have undertaken a review for those qualifications to have funding removed, to see where we need to retain alternative qualifications, such as applied general qualifications or BTECs, and to consider how long we will need to keep them in place. We undertook extensive stakeholder engagement, delving into the detail of qualifications with employer representative bodies, colleges, practitioners, awarding organisations and industry experts. We recognise that certainty is very important to education providers, to students and to their parents and indeed guardians. And I would like to reassure the House that our decisions make the position clear up to 2027. We are clear that students deserve high quality qualifications that meet their needs and that we must continue to develop and improve qualifications so that they provide for the needs of students and employers. The Curriculum and Assessment Review will be taking a view on qualifications in the long term as part of the wider consideration of how we prepare all young people for life and work. But there are some areas where we need to act in advance of its recommendations. The first change we will be making is that we will not tell providers and students which types of qualifications they can and cannot mix together. It should be for colleges and sixth forms to work with students, employers, mayors and higher education to devise the best mix for individuals and deliver the skilled young people that their local economy needs. We will therefore not be applying the previous proposed rules of combination. They are confusing, a number of qualifications in the system, and through the review we have already identified over 200 qualifications with low or no enrolments, and we will remove funding from these in line with already published dates. This gives students and employers a simpler range of qualifications to choose from. T-levels provide an excellent qualification option which should be available to more learners, and we've introduced 3 new T-levels this September. A further T-level in marketing is to be introduced from September 2025. It was fantastic to see the energy generated by the year's T-levels week, which highlighted the huge benefits that young people are gaining from T-levels and their enthusiasm for the qualification. The unique industry placement aspect of T-levels is a real draw for students and is something all too often is not offered by other qualifications. We've recently introduced new flexibilities to support industry placement delivery to enable more young people to benefit from the opportunities T-levels provide. It follows, therefore, that where learners wish to study a large qualification in a T-level route, the T-level should be the main option for them. We have moved away from blanket restrictions, such as automatically defunding any qualification which overlaps with a T-level. Instead, we have taken a practical, evidence-led approach, looking at the qualifications route by route. This will ensure that we will be confident there are high-level choices for students. On this basis, we have concluded that we will not proceed with defunding qualifications on published lists in agriculture, environmental and animal care, legal, finance and accounting, business and administration, and creative and design before 2024. Following our review, we will retain funding for 157 qualifications that were due to be defunded by the 31st of July 2025. In engineering and manufacturing, we will keep funding for the qualifications previously identified for defunding until 2027. This will allow time to update the occupational standards which are designed by employers and which underpin this large and complex route, and for new qualifications which meet the needs of learners, providers and employers to be established. In the digital sector, we are working with the T-level awarding organisation to make assessments more manageable and plan to have the necessary changes in place for the next academic year. We are also making T-level placements more flexible, expanding the option for remote learning. This will be particularly important in the digital route. We will keep funding for the 6 existing large digital qualifications until 2026 to allow time to embed these key improvements. Beyond that, we will also keep funding for 13 smaller digital qualifications so that learners have a range of choices until reformed alternatives are available. For health and science and social care, the previous decision to defund social care qualifications left a gap given the heavy T-level focus on health and science rather than social care. We will therefore keep funding for 9 qualifications in health and social care until new qualifications in the care services route have been developed, and we expect this to happen in 2026 to 2027. We are also keeping funding beyond that for 11 qualifications in science-related subjects to give learners even more options. On education and early years, we have heard strong support for the T-level, and so we will remove funding from existing large and medium qualifications as planned in 2025. This will direct learners who want to study a large qualification to the T-level as the highest quality option. We are also retaining funding for 6 smaller qualifications to support specific occupations such as teaching assistants and giving learners a smaller alternative. Construction is a key part of this government's mission, and I'm delighted to report that the 2 of the construction T-levels continue to grow and offer high-quality options for learners. The on-site construction T-level is also providing valuable education industry experience and a positive route into employment to those who wish to take it. However, its success has been limited because of a lack of overall demand for a larger qualification at level 3. We have, as a result, concluded that the needs of learners and the economy are best met through apprenticeships and other classroom provision, and decided to cease taking new enrolments for the on-site construction T-level. Those already taking it will be able to complete it as planned and progress into positive destinations post-graduation. To meet the economic needs of the important sector and to ensure that we can support our missions around high-quality housing, we are also keeping 1 large qualification in site carpentry and in 11 other medium and small qualifications. We must continue to improve opportunities and the quality of qualifications. We will only keep qualifications until they are no longer needed, so that learners can do the T-levels that they need to do. We will invite awarding organisations to submit further new 3-level qualifications in the spring to continue the process of reform. We are currently considering whether proposed T-levels in catering and beauty therapy meet the needs of learners and the economy, and we will update the sector in due course. I can confirm that any new T-level in these areas will not be rolled out until at least 2026. These changes are a fair reflection of what we have heard and offer a balanced approach that supports our missions of spreading opportunity and supporting economic growth. We want high-quality options, strong choices, and a simpler system that is easier for learners to navigate. The approach and timescales I've set out today represent a pragmatic and achievable journey to where we want to be. We are putting the needs of learners and our economy at the heart of how we move forward, and I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Minister Neil O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I thank the Minister for advance sight of this statement. Now, for many years, people have worried about the huge number of different qualifications in further education. And for many years, people have wanted us to be more like Germany and called for new, higher quality, higher funded, simpler qualifications. And T-levels, introduced under the last government, are an attempt to do exactly that, with a higher unit of funding and much more work experience, finally a clear, prestigious qualification mirroring A-levels on the academic side. And as the Minister will know from talking to Lord Sainsbury, part of the vision was also to use them to simplify that landscape that everyone agrees is too complex. Now, I think that the sector will heave a sigh of relief that today's announcement is finally out. We were getting to the point where literally any decision was better than continuing indecision, but this announcement leaves some huge unanswered questions. The Minister says that things will now be clear up till 2027. In other words, we'll be back again, here again, in 2 years' time. We had a pause and a review. We're now going to have a longer pause and another review. And at some point, the government will have to decide. The sector has been wanting certainty, but we know from today it's not going to get it yet. Now, the government must spell out some kind of vision for how they plan to simplify the landscape of qualifications, which everyone has agreed for my whole lifetime is far too complicated and fragmented. The Honourable Lady even today said the qualifications landscape is too confusing, even in a statement where she was announcing that the government had decided to keep more qualifications, particularly overlapping qualifications. Now, I don't want to be too mean to the Honourable Lady. These issues are not easy. In government, we had the Wolf Review, and then more recently we removed a further 5,500 qualifications, which had sustained low take-up. But what is this government's vision to simplify the landscape? I mean, never mind the detail, what is the rough vision? When will it set out that vision? If it's not T-levels and what the previous government were planning to do, then what is it? There's also a lot more work to be done to improve T-levels. The government is to allow, as the Minister said today, part of the work experience now to be delivered working from home. But we need much more than that. What is the plan to reduce dropout rates, to make T-levels more appealing, easier to deliver? One of the great things about T-levels is that you have to produce so much more work experience, about 50% more than previous qualifications. That makes them much harder to deliver. What is the government doing to help colleges deliver them? Now, on a point of process, the government, rather extraordinarily, I thought, refused to publish the terms of reference for the review that's now just concluded, even in response to Freedom of Information requests from FE Week. Will the Minister now agree, now that the review is over, to publish the terms of reference now that it's concluded? There's no reason for that not to be in the public domain. Now, no qualification structure will work unless we will get the funding landscape for technical education right. And so will the Minister set out the funding implications of her announcement today? The government promised they would protect public services from the national insurance increase. But first universities and now this week nurseries and early years providers have discovered that this was a false promise. Universities' fee increase has been tallied up by the increase in national insurance, and now early years providers say that the failure to compensate them for the national insurance increase is, quote, catastrophic, and will mean, and I quote, countless nurseries, preschools and childminders will be left with no option but to raise costs, reduce places, or simply close their doors completely. So far, the government have refused to come clean about the cost to the FE sector of the national insurance increase, a piece of information this House, of course, deserves to know, but the government has, but it won't release. And when staff in non-academised colleges complain about their different treatment on pay compared to academised colleges, the government says, oh, there'll be 300 million for post-16 education. But they won't say how much of that is eaten up by the increase in national insurance. So I hope that today, the Minister, as she rises to her feet, will finally give this House the information it deserves to know. It's information the government has, and which this House and people in the sector deserve to know. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's early days, but what we are looking at here is ongoing uncertainty over these qualifications, no clear vision to bring about the simplification which the government says it wants, no proper plan yet to support T-level students and providers. The House is not allowed to see the terms of reference of the review that has just concluded, and the House is also not allowed to know how much of the national insurance increase will cost this sector. Madam Deputy Speaker, for students and teachers alike, we've got to be able to do better than this.
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Shadow Minister for the many points that he has raised. And The reason this review was so pertinent and needed to take place was very much because of the confusion around the T-levels and how much focus and work needed to take place that the government opposite had, when they were in government, had much time to do. Now, this government believes T-levels are an excellent qualification that should be available to more young people. Qualifications that overlap with T-levels will be able to coexist while we continue to develop and improve qualifications so that they provide for the needs of learners and employers, supporting the transition to T-levels as the large technical qualifications of choice. The Conservative government rushed plans would have left young people looking to move into crucial sectors like engineering or social care without options instead of blanket restrictions. This review will deliver the government's ambitions to fix the foundations of the economy and indeed to deliver growth. T-levels, as the opposition minister mentioned, are still in the early stage of implementation, and the retention rate is now improving, and we expect this trend to be maintained as they continue to bed in. Career guidance for potential students is key, and we are raising awareness with carers, advisors to ensure they understand the benefits of T-levels. Now, the opposition minister will also be aware that in the October budget announcement of 300 million additional revenue funding for further education and 300 million new capital investment. This assessment reaffirms and expands the government's commitment to skills by providing an additional 3 million for further education to ensure young people are developing the skills this country needs. In addition, the government's provided 300 million of new funding to support colleges to maintain, improve and ensure suitability of their estate for colleges to address condition and capacity issues in the FE estate. We will set out in due course how this will be distributed. So there are many areas in which the government is making advancements, and we are very aware that students need to be supported and the combinations in learning is absolutely the right thing for them. We remain ambitious for students, and in terms of the terms of references that he has mentioned, I will endeavour to get back to him on that.
Chair Helen Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I first of all pay tribute to everyone who works in further education, an absolutely vital sector which makes a transformative difference and whose importance is often not properly recognised. Vocational and technical courses and qualifications are a critical part of our education system, yet schools, colleges and students have faced great uncertainty as a consequence of the previous government's decision to defund a number of advanced general qualifications. I welcome the additional certainty that the Minister has provided today by committing to maintain some AGQs and to pause any further changes until 2027. The landscape of vocational qualifications is indeed too complex and confusing, but the cliff edge approach adopted by the previous government has had significant adverse consequences. My committee has heard evidence that the previous government's plans have already had material impacts because some colleges have modelled the proposed reduction in courses and now face potential insolvency as a result. So can the Minister say what support the government will be providing to colleges who have already planned and committed to their qualification offering for September 2025 based on the previous government's decision to defund, but who will now face further changes? The committee has also heard evidence of the success of T-levels for those who complete them, particularly in areas like healthcare. However, T-levels currently account for just 10% of all vocational courses, and they continue to have a worryingly high dropout rate. So can I ask the Minister what further work the government is planning between now and 2027 to reform T-levels and make them accessible to a wider range of students, including students with SEND, before any further changes to AGQs are made? My committee understands the value and potential of T-levels, but it is vital that in pursuing this route as the predominant option for technical and vocational training, the government is not locking some young people out of the opportunity to learn, succeed and thrive.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend, the Chair of the Select Committee, for her question. And I join with her as well in her acknowledgement and praise of colleges, the sector, and indeed the teachers themselves. In terms of the qualification, she's quite right to mention some of the track record of the previous government, but we are very much want to support students in their learning, and especially colleges as well. And where colleges are finding themselves in a position where they're having to change course, or where there's issues with the courses, then I would invite them to make that known to the department to see what areas of support can be provided. But the 300 million that has been invested in this area should go some way to provide that. T-levels do need much focus in terms of positive communication and a way of making sure that young people enroll in the right courses. So there are a series of events, of webinars to inform schools and colleges and other professionals working in the educational settings about the outcomes of the review. And the department will begin to publish today further information, advice and guidance in relation to 16 to 19 study programmes in the new year.
For the Liberal Democrat spokesperson, Munira Wilson.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I thank the Minister for her advance sight of the statement. In the years since the Conservatives first botched moves towards prematurely scrapping a range of vocational qualifications, the Liberal Democrats have repeatedly warned of the consequences of that ill-thought-through, counterproductive policy. So it's to be welcomed today that the government has heard our and the sector's concerns. This announcement is a welcome step forward to protect student choice and local decision-making, and a more pragmatic rather than an ideological approach. It was clear that the decision to defund was premature. T-levels, whilst a welcome innovation, have not had enough time to bed in to allow an informed decision, and risk leaving too many young people without appropriate options. Now that the government's providing clarity up to 2027, could I ask the Minister to lay out what the process is for monitoring and reviewing the impact of these changes until 2027? Can she lay out more clearly the timeline in greater detail for the longer-term curriculum and assessment review? Now, I have one particular area of concern in the statement, and that's around early years education. Research last year showed that rather than embracing the T-level in education in early years, students overwhelmingly opted for the overlapping qualifications earmarked for defunding. And now we're hearing that the government is going to go ahead and proceed with that defunding. So given that reality, how does today's announcement square with the government's focus on and rhetoric around prioritising early years? And how will the government improve recruitment and training in that sector if it's not meeting students' needs where they are? And this is reflective, I think, this point, of a broader question on the announcement. What are the government's overarching guiding principles as to which courses will be funded and which will not? The rationale laid out by the Minister suggests that they're working very much on a case-by-case basis. But in the interest of the long-term stability and clarity, shouldn't the government be laying out its principles for how it will approach these decisions more strategically? And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, as students are faced with a welcome range of post-16 options, and as we've heard, a confusing landscape, it's essential that they have excellent support in making these important decisions. How will the government ensure that all students have access to high-quality careers guidance? Thank you.
I thank the honourable member for her many points that she has made, and for also acknowledging very much the pragmatic response. In relation to what she had mentioned around social care, it was very much recognised that the previous government was focusing not on social care, so therefore and childcare. So therefore, there was some areas there where we needed to relook at that and make sure there were level 3 and level 2 placements in place. She will be very aware that we are conducting the curriculum and assessment review that will very much this qualifications reform will very much be connected to that, which is the wider review, and that is likely to be published will be made known next year. There are also various other ways in which the qualifications reform is being monitored in terms of the national audit as well. It is a process where we are reviewing this on an ongoing basis, as well as seeing where the uptake is from students. But we're very much looking at, and this is where Skills England will very much come into play, making sure that organisations and employers are very much involved in the types of training and courses that are available for young people, so that connection is very much there. And we'll be giving and following through with more detail in due course.
Peter Swallow.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is the season of Christmas, and the FE sector will look on the certainty that this statement provides as an early Christmas present. Last month, I visited Bracknell and Wokingham College, a fantastic FE provider in my constituency, where students are learning everything from green construction to nursing, electric car maintenance to career guidance, and showing the breadth of opportunities available through the FE sector. All skills, incidentally, that will underpin the government's missions. And that's vital because the FE sector does not just allow for breaking down barriers of opportunity, it's also a vehicle for growth, it supports the green skills we need in our economy, and it works across those missions to provide the skills necessary. Can I ask the Minister what more support the government can put in place for the FE sector, in particular around the difficult issue of pay settlements for FE teachers?
Yeah, I thank my honourable friend for highlighting many of the areas. And of course, there is the situation with the FE teachers. And I can assure the member that we know the very important contribution of the sector, but pay is not currently set by the pay review bodies, including FE, and government does not set recommended pay in further education. With this said, my noble friend has full knowledge of the needs and the crucial role of the FE college sector.
Damian. Hinds.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And her other noble friend, the distinguished Labour peer, Lord Sainsbury, conducted his landmark review of technical and vocational qualifications. He found that not only were those qualifications multitudinous and heavily overlapping, but had become, to a very large extent, divorced from the very sectors of industry that they were supposed to serve. Now, the overhanging qualifications reform is this massive power grab that the new government is carrying out, creating a body called Skills England and abolishing the independent institute which oversees technical education standards. Skills England isn't even a separate body at all, it's just part of the DFE management structure. With legislation going through Parliament, the Secretary of State will take to herself the power to oversee standards in technical education. I asked her this in Westminster Hall the other day. I'm going to ask it again today. That would not be acceptable for A-levels. How can it possibly be acceptable for T-levels? And what does that say about this government's commitment to parity of esteem?
Minister.
Well, I thank the honourable member for his question, and on the point that he has raised, I will ask my noble friend to get back to him on that. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, may I correct that qualifications in agriculture, environmental and animal care, legal, finance and accounting, business and administration and creative and design will not be defunded before 2027, not 2024, as I said in the statement. Thank you.
Okay, Jim Shannon.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for her statement. I'm minded of that old adage. I suppose I'm old enough to remember all these things, but it says which is when you ask a fish to climb a tree, does not make the fish stupid, it just can't do it. My concern with the qualification review is that we will not have the breadth of scale which allows for student choice and accessibility, and will try to pinpoint people into roles that they can't be successful in. So how can the Minister ensure that those gifted in academia will have that clear path, that those gifted with job skills will find their place as well, alongside and with those who are still searching for their calling and looking for wide subjects to keep many doors open for their future. Thank you so much.
Minister.
I thank the Honourable Member for his question. We are keeping 157 of the courses that were outlined to be defunded, and this is going to be reviewed on an ongoing basis depending on uptake, and our focus is very much on economic growth, and our mission is for growth and making sure that young people have opportunities in the T levels and other qualifications to make sure they're able to get the jobs that are there that are so desperately needed in our country. We are not removing the rules of combination, which means there's more variation for 16 to 19-year-olds that should really support them in and give them more accessibility in the jobs that they wish to do in the future.
That concludes that statement. I'll give the front bench a few moments to swap over.